Oba Femi breaks down in tears after defeating Brock Lesnar on Raw. The atmosphere inside Monday Night Raw was electric, thick with anticipation, tension hanging like a storm ready to burst. The arena was packed to capacity, fans on the edge of their seats, whispers turning into murmurs, then into chants. Nobody knew what was about to unfold, but everyone could feel that something monumental was about to happen. Suddenly, a hush fell over the crowd as the arena darkened. Smoke billowed from the entrance ramp, swirling around like an ominous fog. The lights dimmed to a deep blue, casting long shadows across the ring. The music hit, a haunting, powerful tune that sent a ripple of excitement through the audience. And then, out walked Oba Femi. Not smiling, not posing, just walking with purpose, every step deliberate, eyes locked forward. His face was stoic, almost unreadable, a man on a mission. The crowd's roar grew louder, sensing that tonight wasn't just any ordinary night. Oba Femi's presence was commanding, almost intimidating. Not because he was loud or boastful, but because of the fire burning behind his eyes. For weeks, whispers had circulated backstage and in the corridors of WWE. People spoke in hushed tones about his rise, how he had gone from a promising prospect to an unstoppable force. After vacating the NXT Championship and making powerful appearances across Raw and SmackDown, his momentum had become a tidal wave nobody could stop. Tonight, he was here for a statement. Standing inside the ring, waiting patiently, was Brock Lesnar, the Beast incarnate. The veteran's imposing figure loomed, smirking, confident, almost dismissive. He shook his head, chuckling softly as if to say, "This kid doesn't belong here." The referee signaled, and before the official could even finish, Brock charged. Boom! Lesnar's shoulder collided with Oba Femi like a freight train, sending him crashing into the corner with a thunderous thud. The crowd gasped, the sound echoed through the arena. Brock followed up with brutal forearms to the ribs, each strike echoing like a gunshot. Then, a vicious knee to the stomach that visibly shook Oba. This was classic Lesnar, overwhelming, relentless, terrifying. But tonight, something was different. Oba Femi didn't fall, he didn't flinch. Instead, he absorbed the punishment, standing tall in the corner, eyes blazing with resolve. The silence was deafening as he stared directly into Lesnar's eyes, no fear, no hesitation. The crowd's energy surged, they sensed it. The moment had shifted. Lesnar swung again, but Oba was faster. With lightning reflexes, he caught Brock's arm midair. The arena erupted into shock. In a display of pure strength, Oba twisted Brock around and hurled him across the ring, the force shaking the ropes violently. The Beast looked stunned for the first time tonight. This was chaos now. Oba moved like a monster who had finally unlocked his full potential. German suplex attempt, blocked. F5 set up, countered. Running clothesline, ducked. Oba Femi was a force of nature, a storm unleashed. The crowd roared as he finally found his rhythm. Then, the first seismic impact. Oba lifted Brock high, and drove him into the mat with a crushing spinebuster that made the entire ring shake. The audience erupted into chants of, "Obey! OBA! OBA!" echoing through the arena. Lesnar, furious and frustrated, rolled outside to recover. He slammed the steel steps in anger, screaming in disbelief. His face twisted with rage as he paced like a predator that had just realized it was no longer the hunter. When he returned, he charged again, but this time, Oba met him head-on. Forearm after forearm, strikes echoing like gunfire. Brock staggered, unthinkable. The impossible was happening. Oba then delivered a delayed vertical suplex, holding Brock high above his head for what felt like an eternity. The crowd counted aloud. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then finally, with earth-shattering force, he dropped Brock onto the mat. The arena was silent, stunned into disbelief. No one had ever seen anything like this. Lesnar, now desperate, managed to land a quick German suplex, then another. And another. The Beast roared, lifting Oba onto his shoulders in a last-ditch attempt at the F5. Everyone thought it was over. But Oba, with a burst of adrenaline, slipped out mid-spin, landing behind Brock, and executed the devastating fall from grace powerbomb. The referee's hand hit the mat. 1, 2, 3, silence. Complete and utter silence. The entire arena seemed to hold its breath. Then, in a wave of disbelief, the crowd erupted, a roar of shock, awe, and respect. Oba Femi had just defeated Brock Lesnar. Seconds later, the eruption of cheers was deafening. Fans were jumping, voices hoarse, caught up in the moment. The commentators were losing their minds, screaming about how this was a night that would be remembered forever. Even backstage, reports came in, people standing in stunned silence, watching replays on their monitors. But what happened next was even more unexpected. Instead of celebrating, Oba Femi slowly sank to his knees in the center of the ring. His chest heaved, heavy breaths mixing with tears streaming down his face. He looked down at his hands, trembling, then at Brock's motionless body lying just feet away. And then, the tears came. Real tears. The cameras zoomed in tight, capturing every raw emotion. He covered his face with his hands, overwhelmed by the flood of feelings, months of pressure, doubt, pain, sacrifice finally pouring out in that single, cathartic moment. He had proved he belonged. The crowd's chants shifted from shock to pure respect. Oba, Oba, Oba. Oba slowly rose, eyes red and brimming with emotion. His breathing was heavy, his body exhausted. He didn't pose. He didn't taunt. Instead, he simply looked around the arena, a man forever changed, knowing this victory was more than just a win. It was a declaration. On commentary, they struggled to find words. This was the night a new era truly began in WWE. Because when a man can topple the beast, and still show vulnerability, still show humanity, he's not just dangerous. He's unstoppable. And if this is what Oba Femi's emotional peak looks like, then the entire WWE roster should be terrified of what's coming next.